Hi, this is Gary Lerude. I'm the technical editor at Microwave Journal, and I am here with Lorne Graves of Mercury Systems. He's the Chief Technologist. Lorne, thank you for making some time to spend with me.
My pleasure.
Well, Mercury Systems historically has been known as an embedded systems company. How did you decide to get into the RF space?
Well, if you look at Mercury Systems, it became a kind of an innovation in the business arena to merge into the RF domain. And what we tried to do was look at how customers were struggling with integration efforts across the entire sensor chain. And so we looked and said, you know, there's an opportunity here to start merging some of these together, and it became a business initiative to help customers do their integration quicker, faster, get things to market easier, and ease the integration effort for customers overall.
And what kind of heritage do you have in the RF side?
So that's a really good question. So we brought several different companies in. We've acquired over the last 5-6 years about 10 individual microwave companies. So some of those companies are a company named Advanced Radio Corporation. We brought those guys on board primarily for their high-speed digital, direct digital synthesis technology. There were other companies that were brought on. LNX was another one. LNX was brought on primarily for millimeter wave and microwave technology in terms of building integrated microwave assemblies. And then we brought in another company called Micronetics. Micronetics was already a large company that had several smaller companies underneath it, and they were brought in again for integrated microwave assemblies and basically manufacturing technology as well, and brought along with them a heritage in being able to manufacture very advanced microwave assemblies. And then lastly, a company called Core Electronics. Core Electronics was a small subsystems integrator, and so what they brought was a domain experience in systems and using RF all the way to digital. And the last company that I'll mention is actually the first acquisition was Ecotech, which was a digital signal processing company, and that kind of linked this whole sensor chain together. Wow. When you bring all of those together, and it's kind of created a little bit of a new business environment and a new company out of what Mercury used to be. So we have everything from the antennas all the way to the processing elements or displays now. So that's kind of what our strategy was and where the heritage lies with all those RF companies.
That's quite an impressive list. So
thank you.
At the IMS show here this week, you announced an Open RFM product. So can you tell us what is Open RFM and what was kind of the motivation to develop this?
Yeah, so we just mentioned all those companies that we brought on board, right? So we mentioned, you know, Micronetics and LNX and Advanced Radio Corporation. Well, in the RF domain, most companies had an individual way of doing things. It may not have been, you know, everybody had a similar way of doing them, but they weren't all the same. So taking a look at it, we tried to basically use a model that would allow us to develop modules throughout the company and reuse them in different places. But we also wanted to take those modules and be able to integrate them into open standard architectures like VPX, like VME, and be able to reuse those everywhere. And that's really what Open RFM is. It's a standard structure where you can use it within other open standards, and you now have an open standard architecture for RF in terms of a mechanical envelope, control, power, and you can reuse it and scale it across systems. So it is a wonderful way of getting time to market. We introduced our first product just a few days ago. Right. That is actually a product that was developed for an ESM application or electronic support measures application. And that particular product was a development that would have typically taken about 18 to 20 months in terms of what we were doing in the past. That we've shrank that down to about 12 months, and that was our first development. Wow. So we're hoping to see a great speed up on that as we move forward, and you know, that's really kind of why Open RFM came about and why it was so important to us.
So that sounds very powerful, because obviously in the defense system history, everything was sort of a new blank sheet of paper and so forth. So this sounds like a platform approach will really speed time to market.
It really is, and you know, when you think about it, it's I always like to talk about it as Legos, right? So it's almost like a Lego approach where we can move modules that were developed in VME initially, they can move over to VPX. Modules that were developed for 6U VPX could move to scale to 3U VPX. we get a tremendous amount of reuse and flexibility, and you can configure systems quickly. And instead of it being a 36-month development cycle for a typical system to be fielded, we're hoping to get that down to like a 12-month cycle. And that's really that's the goal of Open RFM in terms of what it does. But it also, if you look at what we're doing with it, we've built in things that are, I call them generational features. And what I mean by that is we're basically going to be able to do things like direct digitization. Those kind of things are inherent capabilities of what the Open RFM module is. So when someone does an upgrade, and let's say we can at some point in time digitize the entire 20 gigahertz of lower 20 gigahertz of spectrum, well, these modules have the capabilities built into them now to support that high speed, high bandwidth of data moving off of them that typically wouldn't be available in normal RF modules that you would see in the future. Or that you see today. Yeah. So we kind of are almost future-proofing it, or hoping to future-proof it.
So how do you take it beyond Mercury Systems to get the industry to adopt it?
That's another great question. So what we're trying to do first is, we used Open VPX in the past as a platform to help with integration, the VPX integration, right? And so we've done this before, and we took it to Vita, but what we did is we started outside of Vita first, and then moved it into Vita as basically a standards body, and that's what we're doing now. So we've kind of got our proof principles. These are the good things about Open RFM. We've learned an awful lot in the first few developments, and now we're going to the next stage, which is, okay, now we're seeking partners. We can't mention who exactly those partners are, but we are seeking partners, and those particular partners will be people that we work with at Vita. And we've introduced this to the Vita body in terms of at the Embedded Tech Trends, talking about what we were trying to do with Open RFM, why we were trying to do it, and gave the reasoning behind, it's very flexible, it's scalable, it reduces the time to market, it gives you an affordability issue too, right? Sure. I mean, it addresses that because you can reuse IP that you've used in previous designs. So that's really where we're headed with it.
Great. Well, thank you for that overview of Open RFM. We're at the Mercury Systems booth at IMS 2015.